All right, what if I told you that the entire modern world, and I mean everything, from the phone in your hand to the global financial system, is basically controlled by a single company, a company you've probably never even heard of? Well, this is the story of that invisible empire, this hidden power that's shaping our reality literally every single second of every day.
Think about it. The moment you pick up your phone in the morning, maybe to turn off your alarm, check the news, send a text, you're touching this massive, incredibly complex supply chain. And this thing, it underpins everything in our modern world.
So, where does all this power come from? Well, it all starts with microchips. You know, those tiny little silicon hearts that beat inside every single device we own? And here's the crazy part. One company, and only one company, holds the master key to making the most advanced ones. Yeah, we all know the big names, right? Apple, Nvidia, Samsung, Intel, the titans of tech. But here's the thing. Every single one of them depends on this one silent force, and it operates out of a small, pretty quiet town in the Netherlands called Veldhoven. And that company's name? It's ASML.
Now, I really want you to focus on this word, monopoly. Because this isn't just, being the market leader. This is an absolute global monopoly. ASML makes the one machine that is absolutely essential for creating the advanced microchips that are going to power our future. And get this, they have zero rivals. None.
Okay, so how on earth did this happen? I mean, how did a small Dutch company manage to get total global dominance in what is probably the most critical industry on the planet? Well, their story, it starts in the most unlikely of places.
So let's go back to 1984. ASML gets its start as this kind of unwanted spin-off from Philips. They're literally working out of a leaky wooden shed. They are the definition of an underdog, going up against these Japanese giants like Nikon and Canon. But they had one big revolutionary idea. See, instead of moving a really heavy lens to print the circuits onto a chip, they thought, hey, why don't we move the super lightweight silicon wafer instead? And this was a game changer. It gave them incredible speed and precision. But innovation isn't always enough. And by the early 90s, the company was teetering on the verge of total collapse.
Right when it looked like it was all over, a lifeline appeared from a very unlikely partner. It was this up-and-coming Taiwanese company called TSMC. They saw the potential in what ASML was doing, and they decided to take a chance. They placed a bet. And that partnership, man, it would put both of them on a path to just dominate the entire industry. But the truly incredible gamble, the one that would forge their absolute monopoly, that was still to come.
Okay, to really get why ASML is so dominant, we have to talk about the machine they built. A machine that pretty much defies the laws of physics. A machine that every other company in the world said was completely impossible to build.
Their goal was to create a whole new way of making chips. It's called extreme ultraviolet lithography, or just EUV for short. The basic idea was to use a much shorter wavelength of light to print circuits that were just unimaginably small. The physics behind this were so ridiculously hard that their big rivals, Nikon and Canon, they just gave up. They abandoned the project, literally calling it insanity. But ASML, they decided to go for it, all on their own.
Just think about what it took to build this thing. They had to solve not one, but three nearly impossible physics problems. Okay, first, you have to create the light itself. To do that, they blast these tiny droplets of molten tin with a massive laser, 50,000 times a second. It's insane. Then second, you have to guide that light. Now this EUV light gets absorbed by everything, even the air. So the whole process has to happen in a perfect vacuum, bouncing the light off the smoothest mirrors ever created by humans. I mean, if you scaled one of these mirrors up to the size of Germany, the biggest bump on it would be less than a millimeter high. It's just flawless. And then third, you have to actually etch the chip, moving the silicon wafer with a level of precision that is smaller than the width of a single strand of human DNA.
And each one of these machines, they're the size of a city bus, packed with hundreds of thousands of components. It is an absolute marvel of modern engineering. And the price tag? Over $200 million for one machine.
So you take that incredible complexity, something they spent 2 decades and billions upon billions of dollars perfecting, and what you get is an unbreachable technological fortress. It's that simple. Nobody else on Earth can build this machine.
So now, armed with this impossible machine, ASML wasn't the underdog anymore. Not even close. They became the kingmaker, the company that gets to decide who wins and who loses in the multi-trillion-dollar global tech race.
For decades, the American giant Intel was the undisputed king of chips. Nobody could touch them. But they hesitated. They were reluctant to adopt this new, unproven EUV technology. But in 2017, TSMC, they took a massive risk and went all in on ASML's machines. And boy, did that gamble pay off. TSMC mastered the technology, and suddenly they can make faster, more powerful chips for huge clients like Apple. And for the very first time in its long history, Intel was left in the dust.
And just like that, the entire industry was reshaped. There was a simple new rule. If you wanted to compete at the cutting edge, you needed an ASML EUV machine. If you didn't have one, you were out of the game. Period.
Now, this kind of absolute power, it doesn't just catch the eye of other companies. Oh no, it very quickly drew the attention of world governments. And suddenly, this incredible piece of technology was transformed into a strategic weapon of immense power.
All the major world powers, we're talking Washington, Beijing, Brussels, they all had the same realization at the same time. The future of everything. AI, 5G, hypersonic missiles, cyber warfare, it all depended on having the most advanced chips. And there was only one way to make them, with ASML's machines. The company had become the world's single most critical technological choke point.
And so, a global struggle for tech dominance kicked off, with ASML right at the heart of it. You've got the US trying to maintain its lead and block China. You've got China, who's just desperate for technological independence. And then you have Europe trying to reduce its reliance on both of them. But here's the kicker. They all need ASML's machines.
And this conflict escalated fast. Things really came to a head after this brazen industrial espionage scandal, where it came out that a Chinese state-backed firm had stolen ASML's trade secrets. After that, the gloves were off. In 2019, the U.S. successfully pressured the Dutch government to block the sale of these EUV machines to China. And then by 2023, that ban got even wider, tightening the technological blockade even further.
And what this all shows is just how shockingly fragile our global tech supply chain really is. I mean, think about it. The most advanced machines on the planet are from the Netherlands. The absolutely critical mirrors inside them come from Germany. And the world's leading chip maker, TSMC, is based in Taiwan, which is, a major geopolitical flashpoint. Our entire hyper-connected world is literally hanging by a thread, hinging on just a handful of irreplaceable companies in a few very vulnerable spots.
So what are the big takeaways from all this? Well, ASML's journey really offers two powerful lessons. First, that true game-changing innovation requires incredible patience and a super long-term vision. Remember, they spent 20 years on a project that everyone else called impossible. And the second lesson? Our entire digital world has become alarmingly, dangerously dependent on a single company, a single point of failure.
ASML isn't some social media giant you scroll through every day, or a smartphone maker with a product in your pocket. Now, there's something way more fundamental than that. They are that invisible empire. Their influence is literally everywhere, in everything. But their power, it's all concentrated in one small town.
And all of this leaves us with one final and really crucial question for our hyper-connected and hyper-fragile world. When one single company holds the key to the future, who gets to decide which doors get unlocked and which ones stay locked forever?